Chapter 31 System, You Tricked Me Again. You are listening at Audio. Qin Buyi's pupils shrank when he saw the long sword in the heavenly soldier's hand vibrating towards him at high speed. Killing sword technique? Qin Buyi asked in surprise. At this time, he recalled what the system had said before, that someone in the secret realm of awakening would teach him the fourth form of the killing sword technique. Kill, slaughter. Qin Buyi shouted. Chong, that the killing blades in hand collided fiercely with the long knives in the hands of the heavenly soldiers, sparks flew everywhere, and the force was transmitted from the killing blade to Qin Buyi's arm, and then from the arm to the body. Thump thump thump. Qin Buyi took 3 steps back before he could completely remove all the strength from his body. On the other hand, the heavenly soldiers on the opposite side did not retreat even 1 step. Qin Buyi quickly stabilized his body and pushed on the ground with his toes. Qin Buyi held the killing blade and quickly attacked the heavenly soldiers again. Killing and slaughtering, that the heavenly soldiers on the opposite side also used killing swordsmanship and slashed at Qin Buyi. Chong, that this time, Qin Buyi immediately fell back more than meters after the collision. The physical attributes of the heavenly soldiers in front of me are far different from mine, and they use the same sword skills. Logically speaking, Qin Buyi should not be at a disadvantage, but the fact is that even though the opponent's attributes are not as good as Qin Buyi's in all aspects, the weak can defeat the strong. When the killing blade and the opponent's long knife were chopping together, the attack from the opponent's long knife was slightly beyond the range of the golden core realm. Qin Buyi shouted, "Kill, slaughter," that the heavenly soldiers shouted in the same hoarse voice, "Kill and slaughter." Chong! 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 After dozens of rounds, Qin Buyi has been at a disadvantage, and the gap between him and his opponent is getting wider and wider as the fight progresses. The creeping sound like rust on the heavenly soldiers' bodies has disappeared, their bodies are becoming more and more agile, and their attacks are becoming more fierce. Boom! That the killing blade collided with the opponent's long knife, and Qin Buyi was blasted hundreds of meters away, with fierce force flowing around his body. Qin Buyi tried his best to control his body, but he still couldn't avoid hitting the ground hard. Boom! That he put one hand on the ground and stood up quickly. At this time, the heavenly soldiers were already in front of him. Chong! That in a hurry, Qin Buyi raised his sword in front of him to block. Laugh! That the long knife in the hand of the heavenly soldier slashed across Qin Buyi's chest mercilessly, leaving a wound deep enough to show the bone. How could this happen? Qin Buyi was shocked in his heart. The heavenly soldiers in front of him did not give Qin Buyi time to be shocked. After cutting open Qin Buyi's chest with the long knife in his hand, he attacked again. Qin Buyi endured the severe pain in his chest and attacked with all his strength with the killing blade in his hand. Chong! Chong! Boom! Bang! This time Qin Buyi was directly hit by the heavenly soldiers and flew thousands of meters away, hitting the ground heavily. The realm of swordsmanship is unsightly. Are you holding a fire stick in your hand? The heavenly soldier said sarcastically. Qin Buyi got up from the ground, and the long-lost feeling of falling apart in his body reappeared. After standing up, Qin Buyi showed a smile and whispered, "I found it." The key to the ability of the heavenly soldiers to defeat the strong with the weak lies in their mastery of sword techniques even when their attributes are far different from their own in all aspects. Killing and massacre, the essence of this sword technique is high-speed vibration. Qin Buyi can vibrate hundreds of times in 1 second. Every blow of the heavenly soldiers in front of me vibrated no less than 1,000 times. As the battle with him lasted longer, the number of vibrations per second continued to increase. The last blow even reached the terrifying level of shaking tens of thousands of times in 1 second, using the golden elixir to complete the attack that could instantly kill the early stage of nascent soul. If it weren't for Qin Buyi's tyrannical attributes and his understanding of the killing sword technique, the sword strike just now would definitely have been more dangerous than bad. Killing and slaughtering. Holding the killing blade in his hand, Qin Buyi imitated the vibration trajectory of the heavenly soldier's long sword, gradually increasing the number of vibrations per second of the killing sword technique. Chong! Chong! Boom! The blades collided, and Qin Buyi was knocked away again, but a smile appeared on his face. Just now, he increased the massacre vibrations to thousands of times per second. Tianbing's voice was hoarse and he said, I didn't expect you to find out so soon, but you are still too weak. If you don't improve quickly, you will die. Killing and slaughtering. The avenue of heavenly soldiers, holding a long knife that vibrated tens of thousands of times per second, he attacked Qin Buyi. Kill, slaughter. Qin Buyi roared. Chong! Chong! Boom! Qin Buyi was knocked back again, but this time the distance was greatly reduced compared to before. Killing and slaughtering. Chong! Chong! Boom! Killing and slaughtering. After hundreds of rounds, Qin Buyi had 2 more injuries, one on his abdomen, the other one was in the throat area, just barely slit open. Qin Buyi looked at the heavenly soldiers with a faint blood color in his eyes and shouted. Killing and slaughtering. Holding the killing blade in his hand, he slashed at the heavenly soldiers in front of him with all his strength. Chong! The weapons collided, and the harsh sound of the clash of weapons sounded again. Den! After the attack, Qin Buyi took 2 steps back, and the heavenly soldiers took half a step back. At this time, Qin Buyi was able to use the killing sword technique, which vibrated nearly tens of thousands of times per second. It can be close to tens of thousands of times to 10,000 times per second, and there seems to be a chasm in the middle that is difficult to cross. Killing and slaughtering. Qin Buyi held the killing blade and launched a crazy attack. Chong! 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 Half an hour passed. In this half hour, Qin Buyi used the killing sword technique tens of thousands of times. As Qin Buyi attacked crazily, although he lost a lot of physical strength, the good thing was that he was only 1 step away from tens of thousands of attacks. Now Qin Buyi's massacre can shock 99 times per second. It's just a little short of reaching 10,000 vibrations per second. Qin Buyi thought to himself, gathering all his remaining strength together. Qin Buyi looked at the heavenly soldiers with blood-red eyes and said with murderous intent. Killing and slaughtering. Cut! With Qin Buyi's loud shout, the chasm that seemed insurmountable before disappeared in an instant, vibrating thousands of times per second. The sword technique of slaughter looks like a calm lake on the surface but turbulent on the inside, full of fatal dangers. Chong! Chong! The killing blade collided with the long knife in the hands of the heavenly soldiers. Behead me! Qin Buyi shouted. Crack! There were cracks in the long sword in the hand of the heavenly soldier, and it made a harsh sound. Crack! The overwhelmed long knife bang! Turned into countless fragments and exploded in all directions. Laugh! After the killing blade smashed the sword in the hand of the heavenly soldier, it cut off the heavenly soldier's head without mercy. Boom! The heavenly soldiers once again turned into headless corpses and fell to the ground. After Qin Buyi performed this killing move thousands of times per second, his strength seemed to have been drained away, and he gasped for breath. The future room for improvement and promotion route of the slaughter sword technique are already clear. Although it is full of danger, you can obviously feel that your strength is constantly improving. It's so exciting at the beginning. What will happen next? Qin Buyi thought with a little curiosity. During the battle just now, Qin Buyi discovered that the murderous intention that had previously been suppressed by the system asking for 170 attribute points was gradually loosening, and with the continuous fighting, the loosening speed is also accelerating, and my previous ominous premonition seems to be becoming a reality. It's unknown what lies ahead of the awakening secret realm, but judging from the first level, the rest will definitely not be easy. The killing intention gradually loosened, which meant that he had to use more of his mind to fight against the killing intention to prevent himself from losing his mind and becoming a tool that only knew how to kill. The current situation can be described as internal and external troubles, and Qin Buyi has already determined in his heart that he has definitely been tricked by the system this time. Now that I have been in contact with the system, basically every time there is a nasty operation, from the early stage when he was forced to fight against the Tang family's nascent soul in the Golden Core realm, to the Nanchaman's mysterious operation, he got 20 attribute points and an invisible bomb. Qin Buyi found that he seemed to be used to such a cheating system, but habits become habits, and this did not delay Qin Buyi from saying loudly to the system in his heart. System, you tricked me again. Chapter 32, killing the true form. You are listening at Audio. Facing Qin Buyi's disrespectful words this time, the system may have felt that it was in the wrong and did not speak. Seeing that there was no movement in the system, Qin Buyi did not continue to speak. For Qin Buyi, it was normal to vent his emotions appropriately, but if he kept venting his emotions, it turned into complaints. Complaining is the most worthless thing in the world. It will only make people more and more pessimistic and desperate. After simply bandaging the wounds on his body and adjusting his mentality, Qin Buyi continued to move forward with the killing blade in hand. When he reached 2/3 of the way, Qin Buyi saw the same heavenly soldier lying on the ground. Even the wound on his neck was exactly the same as the one he had caused with the killing blade. Qin Buyi rubbed his eyes, took out the little Qinglong from his arms, and pinched the little Qinglong's fleshy belly with his big hand. Xiao Qinglong grimaced in pain and turned his little head to look at Qin Buyi in confusion. Qin Buyi saw Xiao Qinglong's performance and whispered in confusion, "It doesn't seem to be an illusion." Putting the confused little Qinglong into his arms again, Qin Buyi turned back to look at where he came from. At this time, the corpse of the heavenly soldier that should have been lying behind him had disappeared without a trace. The headless heavenly soldier in front of him also stood up first, and this time he grabbed the head directly and accurately on the ground and pressed it on the head. The junction of the neck and skull healed to an intact state again. Tianbing shook his neck, looked at Qin Buyi, and showed an unknown smile with familiar meaning. "Is it you?" Qin Buyi looked at Tianbing and asked. "It's still me." Tianbing nodded and said in a hoarse voice. Qin Buyi was very curious about this strange phenomenon in front of him, and thought to himself, "Is this a resurrection from the dead?" As if the heavenly soldier could see Qin Buyi's inner thoughts, he said, "This is not a resurrection from the dead, but it is a resurrection from the dead." Listening to Tianbing Yunlawuli's words, Qin Buyi replied with a serious face, "Listening to your words is better than just one word." The force from before in the passage reappeared and penetrated into Qin Buyi and Tianbing respectively. The two people's cultivation, which was previously suppressed at the golden core perfection, was instantly elevated to the nascent soul perfection. The long sword that Qin Buyi chopped into pieces appeared again in the hands of the heavenly soldiers. The heavenly soldiers drew out their long swords and struck Qin Buyi, saying, "Kill, annihilate." The sword in the hand of the heavenly soldier drew a waning moon, shrouding Qin Buyi in it. Qin Buyi held the killing blade in his hand and shouted, "Killing, killing." The waning moon appeared and condensed at the tip of the killing blade, and attacked the waning moon drawn by the long sword of the heavenly soldier. Chang! Chang! Clang! The long knife and the killing blade collided violently, and the two sides attacked intensively, making a clanging sound in the passage. The waning moon dissipated, leaving the heavenly soldier intact, but Qin Buyi's wounded body had several more bloody holes. Blood flowed out from the blood hole, and Qin Buyi's expression did not change, as if he was not the one who was injured. With all his strength concentrated on the killing blade, Qin Buyi took the lead in attacking. Kill, annihilate. The waning moon enveloped the heavenly soldiers. Clang! Clang! Chang! After the waning moon dispersed, Tianbing looked at Qin Buyi with slightly disappointed eyes and said, "Is that all there is? Let you see the real killing and annihilation." The heavenly soldier shouted. The waning moon quickly condensed on the sword of the heavenly soldier. After the waning moon appeared, it continued to condense, and soon turned into a full moon. The heavenly soldier flew 1,000 meters into the air, and the full moon on the long sword expanded rapidly. Soon, a full moon with a diameter of more than 1,000 meters appeared in front of Qin Buyi, enveloping Qin Buyi. The voice of the heavenly soldiers came from above. Zhu Ju, as the name suggests, kills everything and destroys everything. This is the real killing and Zhu Ju. Qin Buyi was inside the full moon, and everything he saw was white with moonlight. 10 phantoms of long swords suddenly appeared inside the full moon. The 10 phantoms of long swords were slashed towards Qin Buyi. Chang! Chang! Clang! Qin Buyi held the killing blade and easily resisted the 10 phantoms of long knives, and then hundreds of phantoms of long knives appeared in the full moon. Whoosh! Hundreds of phantoms of long swords quickly fell towards Qin Buyi. There was no way this kind of attack could be easily blocked. Qin Buyi shouted, "Kill the living creatures and kill them all." that the waning moon condensed at the tip of the killing blade, shrouding the shadows of hundreds of long swords. Chang! 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 After the waning moon dispersed, hundreds of phantoms of long swords dispersed at the same time. Before Qin Buyi could breathe a sigh of relief, thousands of phantoms of long swords appeared in the full moon and attacked Qin Buyi at the same time. Qin Buyi never thought that Zhu Ju could be used like this, or that this was the real Zhu Ju. Within the scope of the extermination, both living life and inanimate buildings, stones, etc. will be destroyed, recalling that in the Tang family, the killing blade used on his body was definitely like this. After one blow, the Tang family was completely destroyed. Qin Buyi looked at the rapidly falling attacks, gritted his teeth and kept waving the killing blade in his hand. Kill, annihilate. Kill, annihilate. Chang! 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 The waning moon condensed, collided with the shadow of the long sword in the air, and then dispersed. After the shadows of thousands of long swords completely dissipated, Qin Buyi stood there like a bloody man. Dense wounds appeared on Qin Buyi's body, bleeding continuously. Without leaving Qin Buyi any time, the fourth wave of attacks arrived, and tens of thousands of phantoms of long swords appeared in the full moon. Jianbing's voice, with no hint of emotion, reached Qin Buyi's ears. This is the last wave of attacks. If you want to survive, you have to realize the true form of Zhu Ju in the short time remaining. If you don't understand, you will have no other choice but death. As soon as the heavenly soldier finished speaking, tens of thousands of phantoms of long swords came towards Qin Buyi. Whizzing. Whoosh. Each shadow of the long sword carries the sound of flying at extremely high speeds. Qin Buyi recalled the appearance of the heavenly soldiers when they used Zhu Ju, and deduced it over and over again in his mind. Just when the shadow of tens of thousands of long swords was about to fall on him, Qin Buyi's standing figure moved, holding the killing blade and pointing it at the phantom of tens of thousands of swords. The killing blade instantly condensed a waning moon. After the waning moon appeared, it quickly became a full moon, and the full moon expanded rapidly, 1 meter, 10 meters, 100 meters, kilometer. It soon condensed into a full moon with a diameter of several thousand meters. The full moon condensed by Qin Buyi directly enveloped the heavenly soldiers and the full moon condensed by it. Kill, kill! Qin Buyi shouted. Cut! The phantoms of tens of thousands of killing blades emerged in the full moon and attacked towards the phantoms of tens of thousands of long swords. Chang! Chang! Boom! Boom! After the killing blade phantom and the long sword phantom collided, the explosion sound continued. Soon the shadow of the long sword disappeared, leaving only half of the shadow of the killing blade. Cut! Qin Buyi pointed at the heavenly soldiers in the sky and shouted. The remaining killing blade phantoms quickly slashed towards the heavenly soldiers. Hey! Hey! Laugh! The sound of sharp blades cutting into flesh was heard in the air. At this time, Jianbing's body was like a hornet's nest, with blood holes everywhere. Laugh! The shadow of the killing blade passed through the throat of the heavenly soldier, and the body of the heavenly soldier was separated again, and the shadow completely disappeared. Boom! The headless corpse of the heavenly soldier fell from the sky like a rag sack and hit the ground. Seeing this, Qin Buyi let out a long sigh of relief as the full moon dispersed. Sitting on the ground, Qin Buyi thought to himself, it's so dangerous. If it had been a little later, it might have been worse. The wound on his body was still bleeding, but Qin Buyi was in a very good mood at this time. This time he fully understood Zhu Ju's true form. Chapter 33 Killing Red Lotus. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After defeating the heavenly soldiers for the second time, the suppressed murderous intention was completely loosened and began to strengthen. All his mind was used to fight against the murderous intention. The murderous intention that was constantly churning in his heart was suppressed by Qin Buyi with all his strength and began to fight back strongly. Wave after wave of murderous intent struck Qin Buyi's mind. Just when his mind was about to lose control, the intensity of the murderous intention that had been fiercely counterattacking no longer continued to increase. The mind and the murderous intention were fighting equally, and Qin Buyi did not dare to relax a little. If you relax a little, the consequences will be disastrous. About an hour later, the murderous intention had not diminished even a little, and Qin Buyi's eyes were already bloodshot. The brain is running wildly. Staying where you are and fighting the murderous intention is not the best choice. Instead of wasting time here without any help, it is better to move on. After taking a look at the position where the corpses of the heavenly soldiers were separated, the corpses of the heavenly soldiers disappeared again. Holding the killing blade, he walked forward again. When he reached the end of the passage, Qin Buyi was ready to encounter the heavenly soldiers again, but unexpectedly, the heavenly soldiers did not appear. After walking through the end of the passage without incident, Qin Buyi saw 3 roads leading to different palaces. The road on the left has been destroyed, the right is blocked not far away, and only the middle road can be walked. Qin Buyi didn't hesitate at all and headed for the middle road without any surprises along the way. There was no danger, but Qin Buyi became more vigilant. The previous 2 levels had already caused him serious injuries, and now he was still facing the danger of losing control of the murderous intention in his heart at any time. If the awakening secret realm can be passed so easily, Qin Buyi will have 100 people who don't believe it. At the end, a large hall appeared within Qin Buyi's field of vision. The plaque on the main hall reads, Lingxiao Hall. This is actually the legendary Lingxiao Palace. Qin Buyi was shocked. The door of Lingxiao Palace was open. Qin Buyi looked from the outside in, but there was nothing inside. Qin Buyi stepped into an empty palace. After entering the Lingxiao Palace, a feeling as if he had stepped into another space emerged in Qin Buyi's heart. The scene in front of him changed. He was looking at the empty Lingxiao Palace outside. At this time, there are many futons placed in front of us. Judging from the number of futons, they should be prepared for various gods in heaven to go to court. Depending on the position, the futons are arranged from front to back. The end of the futon is where Qin Buyi stands. Looking up along the futon, a chair engraved with a 5-clawed golden dragon was at the top of the hall. What Qin Buyi never expected was that a woman in red clothes was sitting on the chair with her eyes slightly closed. It's not so much red clothes, but more condensation of blood energy and murderous intent. The woman suddenly opened her eyes and looked at the wary Qin Buyi below. A trace of murderous intent flashed in her eyes, but she said in a tone as if she was chatting with an old friend, "You're here." The woman in front of him acted as if he had known him for a long time. Qin Buyi thought for a while and said cautiously, "Who are you?" Seeing Qin Buyi's cautious look, the woman didn't bother to pretend, and her tone changed, "Me. We've known each other for so long, and you still don't know who I am. Damn it. Qin Buyi hasn't finished speaking yet. The woman came to him in an instant, patted Qin Buyi's heart with her right hand, and said with a look of confusion and curiosity, "Why do you have to suppress such a beautiful murderous intention? I'm here to help you release it." A murderous intention came from the woman's palm and went straight into Qin Buyi's heart. Under the combination of inside and outside, Qin Buyi could no longer control the murderous intention suppressed in his heart. It was like a flood bursting its banks, erupting completely. "Ah!" Qin Buyi shouted. After the murderous intention broke out, it kept attacking his reason. When the woman saw Qin Buyi being enveloped by the murderous intention, she nodded and moved her onion-like fingers towards the killing blade. The killing blade flew up out of thin air and into her hand. "Chong!" The woman drew out the killing blade and stroked the blade with her onion-like jade fingers. Qin Buyi, who was fighting against the murderous intention with all his strength, said with an icy tone, "My name is, Killing Red Lotus. If you want me to be a sharp blade in your hands, you must survive first." Qin Buyi felt as if he was in a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Everything in front of him was blood. Hearing what Hong Lian said in a hazy state of consciousness, Qin Buyi immediately knew who she was. She was the killing blade that had been accompanying him all this time. Killing intent rushed out of Qin Buyi's body, forming a layer of blood-like clothes outside his body. After careful observation, there is no difference from the red clothes Hong Lian wears, except that the blood color is a little lighter. After the murderous intention broke out of his body, Qin Buyi's body looked like a cooked prawn, and his whole body was red. The surface of his body felt like being bitten by millions of ants, and bursts of pain shot through his brain. Qin Buyi gritted his teeth and persisted, but his murderous intent grew stronger and stronger, and soon there was only a trace of sanity left. Drowsiness spread throughout the whole body, and there seemed to be a voice in my heart that said, sleep, sink, and give up this meaningless confrontation. Can't sink in. Qin Buyi shouted firmly, I won't give up, no. I still have spiritual thoughts. Qin Buyi did not want to use his spiritual thoughts unless he had to. Once his divine thoughts were contaminated with the intention to kill, the consequences would be unpredictable, but in the current situation, if you don't use divine will to suppress it and just rely on your own mind to fight, it will only be a matter of time before the murderous intention erodes you. The divine thoughts in his brain were like a waterfall rushing towards the murderous intention. The spiritual thoughts and murderous intentions in the body are fighting equally, like a tug-of-war. The severe pain in his body escalated again. Qin Buyi gritted his teeth and gasped for breath. As time passed, divine thoughts gradually gained the upper hand, forcing the killing intent into one place. Just when Qin Buyi was about to drive the murderous intention out of his body, Hong Lian came to Qin Buyi's side again, and a murderous intention that was more tyrannical than before was passed down Hong Lian's palm into Qin Buyi's body. Qin Buyi opened his blood-red eyes and looked at Hong Lian. Hong Lian was full of coldness and murderous intent and whispered in Qin Buyi's ear, I will not become a sharp knife in your hands. The reason is very simple. I don't look down on you. Ha! Qin Buyi laughed. Why are you laughing? Are you happy knowing that you are going to die? Hong Lian looked at Qin Buyi in confusion. Qin Buyi said nothing. The situation in his body was completely opposite to that before. The murderous intention had already forced his spiritual thoughts to one place. Since there is no choice, let's take a gamble. Qin Buyi thought in his heart, let go of your spiritual defense and fully absorb the murderous intent in front of you. Killing intention is essentially a type of intention, and one of the ways to improve divine intention is to absorb ideas. It's just that murderous intention is a particularly dangerous idea. People who do it from ancient times to the present are either dead or crazy, so no one will do it. Seeing that Qin Buyi had absorbed the murderous intention, Hong Lian said sarcastically, you have to take shortcuts even to death. Do you think you don't die fast enough? Shut up, you bastard. Qin Buyi shouted to Hong Lian. When Hong Lian heard this, she narrowed her eyes, her face was as cold as an iceberg. She looked at Qin Buyi and said, boy, if it weren't for these damn rules and restrictions, you would be dead. Qin Buyi looked at Hong Lian mockingly, you had no intention of keeping me alive from the beginning. If you could kill me, why would you say such nonsense? Humph, courting death. Hong Lian held the killing blade and slashed towards Qin Buyi's head. Just when the killing blade struck Qin Buyi, a purple thunder as thick as a hair appeared in the sky. Crack! Purple thunder struck Guren. Hong Lian was knocked to the ground, and her breath suddenly became chaotic. After a long time, Hong Lian stood up, looked at the sky with murderous eyes, and shouted. Humph, there are only a few guys who can use the purple sky divine thunder. Judging from your aura, you are not one of them. Do you dare to come out and let me see who you are? Long after the words fell, there was no movement in the sky. Hong Lian continued with a look of disdain, those who are timid and afraid to show their heads. Boom! There was a burst of thunder in the sky, and purple thunder as thick as a finger struck Hong Lian again. Crack! After Hong Lian was knocked to the ground, she didn't move for a long time. Qin Buyi looked at the purple thunderbolt that was as thick as a hair at the beginning, and now is as thick as a finger many times larger. He couldn't help but gloat in his heart, this guy in the system is so evil, that just when Qin Buyi was wondering if Hong Lian had been chopped to death, Hong Lian stood up unsteadily. This time she learned the lesson and shut up decisively and stopped looking at the sky. Seeing this, Qin Buyi laughed and said, come and kill me, do it. It turns out that you are just a bully who fears the strong. Humph! Hong Lian snorted coldly and turned her head away from Qin Buyi. She wasn't scared as Qin Buyi said, but when she couldn't kill Qin Buyi, she didn't want to be struck by the purple sky thunder just for the sake of words. At this time, the spiritual thoughts in Qin Buyi's body had absorbed most of the killing intent, and the golden divine thoughts now turned golden with a trace of blood red. After all the murderous intent in the body is absorbed, half of the spiritual thoughts are golden. And half red, crazy, bloodthirsty, cold, murderous and other thoughts spread to Qin Buyi's brain. If it was Qin Buyi and killing intent that were confronting each other before, after the killing intent is completely absorbed, it becomes Qin Buyi's confrontation with himself. The intention to kill has become Qin Buyi's instinct subconsciously. This instinct is imperceptible and is natural. It's like a person who never kills, but one day he suddenly realizes that killing is a natural thing. From then on, this person who never kills becomes an executioner. Qin Buyi sat cross-legged on the ground, trying to recall his previous memories and fight against the killing that had become instinctive. A month has passed. During this month, Qin Buyi was like a man who was crazy about gain and loss. Half of the time his eyes were clear, and the other half of the time his eyes were blood red and his body revealed a terrifying murderous intent. Kill. Kill everything that is in the way. Qin Buyi, who was filled with murderous intent, growled with blood-red eyes. Steady your mind, don't fall into killing, don't lose yourself. Qin Buyi murmured in his awake state. Honglian watched Qin Buyi fall into sobriety and confusion for a month, but he still hasn't given up or been assimilated. An idea that seemed very unrealistic came to her mind. Can he really succeed? Chapter 34, 4 Ways of Killing, Scattering Souls. You are listening at Audio. 3 months later, Qin Buyi felt as if he had been split into two, half rational and half full of crazy killing. The body is divided in the middle, the left eye is clear, and the right eye exudes murderous intent. The state of confusion and lucidity switches back and forth every moment. This contradictory and chaotic state made Qin Buyi feel like he was reincarnating in a misplaced time and space. Unable to find a constant state, he is always fighting against the erosion of killing in his subconscious. Qin Buyi, who was in a killing state, shouted hoarsely, "Kill! Destroy everything! You must not sink like this, stabilize your mind." Qin Buyi, who was awake, whispered in a low voice, "The most difficult thing for people is to be against oneself. It is easy to say that oneself is the enemy, but when you actually do it, it's like trying to use your left hand with your right hand. You may not be able to see the effect even though you try your best. What's more, the murderous intention has been absorbed by the divine mind at this time and has become a part of his subconscious mind. Trying to reverse the consciousness of killing from the subconscious is as unrealistic as a fantasy or a fantasy." Honglian has been paying attention to Qin Buyi's condition in the past 3 months. She did not expect that Qin Buyi would insist on resisting for so long, and as a killing blade that was born to kill constantly, she could not accept the human being in front of her who was not much stronger than an ant. Looking at Qin Buyi, Honglian said, "You are doing this in vain. After being eroded by killing since ancient times, people have either gone crazy or died. There are only a few who can survive and wake up." After a pause, Honglian continued, "Obviously, you are not included among these few people." Honglian's words are correct. If you are eroded by killing and give up resistance, you will become a madman who only knows killing. If you don't give up resistance, you will sooner or later die of exhaustion in the process of competing with yourself. Qin Buyi heard Honglian's words and said while he was awake, "Kill Honglian, then you can watch carefully here to see if I, as your master, can wake up alive." From the first moment she held the killing blade, what she did was to devour the master. Before, she didn't understand why the Cecil blade would help him in the Tang family, but now Qin Buyi understood that it was all because the Seshu blade wanted to die in her hands. Regarding the killing blade that was once held by Haotian, the Lord of Heaven, it was obvious that he looked down on himself from the inside out, and he also looked down on others. If he died in the hands of others, it would be tantamount to an insult to Honglian, who has a higher eye. When Honglian heard the word master in Qin Buyi's words, the murderous intent in her eyes deepened, and she looked at Qin Buyi and wanted to say something sarcastic, but then he thought that if Qin Buyi persisted in fighting against him, he would soon exhaust himself and die. He retracted his sarcastic words in his heart and said in a cold tone, "Why should I be as knowledgeable as you, a young cultivator in the transformation stage who is about to die? There is no harm in letting you use your words." Qin Buyi did not reply to Honglian, silently closing his eyes and continuing to fight against himself. Half year later, Qin Buyi sat cross-legged on the ground, his slightly frowning brows slowly unfurling, revealing a long-lost sense of comfort and smile on his face. In the past 6 months, the mind and the murderous intention were at first in conflict. Later, when the situation was critical, the mind absorbed all the murderous intention and turned it into a confrontation with himself. During this period, every moment, every minute, and every second seemed like years. While suffering, Qin Buyi did not call on the system in his heart to help solve the current predicament. Instead, he is trying to find his own way to solve the predicament at hand. If you call the system, you may be able to help you get through the predicament, but this is a battle between yourself and the weapon in your hand. Qin Buyi had his own persistence in his heart. Even if he faced the risk of falling into killing at any time, Qin Buyi did not compromise or ask for help. Hard work paid off, and Qin Buyi really came up with a seemingly feasible method. Looking at the golden color mixed with blood-red divine thoughts in my mind, perhaps it is more appropriate to call it the killing divine thoughts. First, the murderous intention in the killing mind is peeled off bit by bit through high-speed operation. Qin Buyi thought of this and began to implement his plan, and the killing thoughts in his brain began to run at high speed. Qin Buyi carefully controlled his spiritual thoughts to gradually peel off the killing part. Honglian felt Qin Buyi's movements, her eyes were filled with confusion and disbelief, and she whispered, "What is this ant doing?" In the past 6 months, Qin Buyi's various behaviors made her feel more and more unhappy. Every time she thought Qin Buyi could no longer hold on, Qin Buyi is always able to continue to carry on unexpectedly. Another month has passed. The spiritual thoughts in Qin Buyi's mind were very clear at this time. On one side was the golden spiritual thought that was not contaminated with killing, and on the other side was the blood-red divine thought that was full of killing. After peeling off the killing part, Qin Buyi's spiritual thoughts shrank by more than half. "Tear it off!" Qin Buyi shouted. The murderous thought was briefly forced out of Qin Buyi's brain. Qin Buyi stood up from the ground and opened his eyes, which were clear and clear without any intention of killing. Honglian couldn't help but strike at the side. "It's useless. Even if you strip away this killing spirit for a short time, it will always return to your body. At that time, you will still be unable to escape the situation of being killed." Qin Buyi glanced at Honglian with an idiot look, and said in a cold tone, "When will it be your turn to teach the master a lesson with a weapon like yours?" Honglian was furious and said, "You." Before he finished speaking, Qin Buyi interrupted without courtesy, "Shut up, you bastard." Walking up to Honglian, he grabbed the killing blade in Honglian's hand. Qin Buyi said in an emotionless tone, "Xiao Honglian, watch what the master does next." Chong. Pulling out the killing blade struggled to break away from Qin Buyi's control. Boom. Qin Buyi shook hands into a fist, stretched his body like a big bow, and punched the killing blade hard. "Quiet," Qin Buyi said with a hint of anger in his tone. The clay figurine is still a little angry, not to mention that Qin Buyi, a living person, has been kept on the line of life and death by Honglian for more than half a year. At this time, Honglian was still making trouble, so Qin Buyi's mood naturally wasn't much better. Zheng. The killing blade whined. Cough. The main body was attacked. Honglian felt uncomfortable at this time, and his face flushed. Seeing Qin Buyi's devouring eyes, he bit his red lotus silver teeth secretly and stared at him without retreating. Humph, I don't know what she was thinking of. After Honglian snorted coldly, the killing blade stopped struggling and allowed Qin Buyi to hold it in his hand. Holding the killing blade in his hand, Qin Buyi looked at the group of divine thoughts in front of him that were filled with killing like blood, and shouted. Killing and slaughtering. The killing blade vibrated tens of thousands of times in 1 second and slashed towards this mass of killing thoughts. Chong. After the knife went down, the surface of the killing mind continued to tremble, and it took a long time before it returned to normal. Puff. A large mouthful of blood spat out from Qin Buyi's mouth. Even though his murderous thoughts were stripped away, they were still part of Qin Buyi's thoughts. There is no difference between the killing blade cutting into the killing mind and Qin Buyi himself, and the pain from 10 fingers to the heart is less than 1/10,000th of it. Without any hesitation, Qin Buyi swung his sword towards the killing mind again. Kill, annihilate. A full moon with a diameter of several kilometers appeared in front of Qin Buyi's eyes. The full moon enveloped the murderous thoughts. The phantoms of tens of thousands of killing blades appeared in the full moon, and the tips of the blades were all pointed at the killing thoughts. Qin Buyi held the knife and slashed at it while shouting, "Cut! Chong! Chong! Chong!" The full moon dispersed, and the surface of the killing mind trembled for a while, as if it might explode at any time. It took a long time to stabilize. "Are you crazy?" Hong Lian said in disbelief. She really couldn't understand a human being in front of her. Regardless of his ant-like cultivation, he regarded his own life as a treasure. If there is even the slightest threat to him from the outside world, he would like to eradicate it and nip all dangers in the cradle, but sometimes he is very contradictory, like a madman who can put his life on the gambling table without hesitation. Cough. Blood flowed down the corner of Qin Buyi's mouth, and at the same time a feeling of dizziness came from his brain, and he ignored Hong Lian. After the dizziness in his mind was a little better, he held the killing blade and slashed out the third sword. Killing life and death realm. A dark light appeared at the tip of the killing blade, and quickly condensed to the thickness of a hair. "Behead!" Qin Buyi shouted. Whoosh! The dark light flew toward the divine mind of killing at extremely high speed and attacked the divine mind of killing. Chong! Boom! A loud noise came, and the killing mind could no longer remain stable and exploded instantly. The killing thoughts of the explosion spread out in all directions, and the madness, cruelty, coldness, bloodthirsty, etc. contained in the killing thoughts of the explosion quickly dissipated, leaving only pure killing. Cough. Qin Buyi spat out a large mouthful of blood, and slumped on the ground with a face like gold paper and a weak breath. Breaking half of your own spiritual thoughts with your own hands is not as dangerous as outsiders would, and you will die if you are not careful. Mostly luck plus being cruel and decisive enough to oneself. Qin Buyi, who was slumped on the ground, said to Hong Lian in a slightly joking tone, "It seems that this time, I, as the master, won. It's a pity that your carefully planned plan to kill me failed." Hong Lian snorted coldly and said nothing. She pointed her jade finger towards Qin Buyi's forehead, and a message was transmitted to Qin Buyi's mind. The fourth form of the killing sword technique, dispersing souls. In addition to dispersing the soul, there is also an additional skill. The technique records how to purify various spiritual thoughts in the world and then absorb them for your own use. Qin Buyi looked at Hong Lian with some surprise, and Hong Lian said with a cold face, "Don't think too much, I just don't want you to die in the hands of others." After Hong Lian finished speaking, she stopped talking, and Qin Buyi started practicing according to the exercises given by Hong Lian. Soon, the killing thoughts that exploded and scattered in the world were gathered in front of him. According to what was written in the technique, Qin Buyi began to purify this pure killing thought. Half an hour later, there was no trace of killing in the killing thoughts, and it returned to its golden state. The spiritual thoughts in the brain came out and gradually absorbed the spiritual thoughts that restored the mass in front of me to normal. It was all absorbed in less than a quarter of an hour. After the absorption, Qin Buyi's face returned to rosy again, and the weakness in his body was wiped away. Chapter 35 Broken Blade. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ding! The awakening mission is completed and the mission rewards have been distributed. Drop, the host has a stay time of 3 hours. During this period, the host can choose to return at any time. It will be forced to return after 3 hours. When he heard the system prompt that the awakening mission was completed, Qin Buyi finally relaxed a little after being nervous for more than half a year. Then Qin Buyi's eyes blurred, and when his vision became clear again, he was outside the Lingxiao Palace, still maintaining the same posture as when he entered the Lingxiao Palace half a year ago. The door to the Lingxiao Palace in front of them was closed, and it looked like it had never been opened. The mottled exterior of the Lingxiao Palace was full of traces of battles. Everything that happened in the past 6 months seemed like a dream, but Qin Buyi understood that this was definitely not a dream. Qin Buyi sighed inwardly at the power of the system, and concluded that he had gained a lot from awakening to the secret realm. The essence of the first and second forms of the killing sword technique has been completely mastered, and there is also the next promotion route. In addition, he also obtained the fourth form of the killing sword technique, soul dispersion. The soul dispersing technique is a spiritual attack. As the practitioner becomes stronger and stronger, his life-saving and survivability abilities also increase greatly. At this stage, the destruction of the physical body is not enough to completely kill a cultivator with strong spiritual thoughts. As long as the spiritual thoughts can escape, any mortal can be reborn. It's nothing more than physical cultivation that needs to be started all over again, but for cultivators at this stage, it's only a matter of time before the resources are enough to improve their cultivation. The purpose of dispersing the soul is to completely destroy the spiritual thoughts of the cultivator and make the cultivator with strong cultivation truly die from the inside out. After reading Sanhun's introduction, Qin Buyi's eyes flashed with joy. The emergence of scattered souls will greatly increase Qin Buyi's combat power. Qin Buyi's spiritual thoughts have surpassed the realm of transformation and reached the strength of the realm of refining the void. The spiritual thoughts of the void refining realm combined with the soul dispersion are even more powerful. Although the awakening secret realm is dangerous, the benefits are also obvious. Qin Buyi was in a good mood at this time, but when he thought about the system treating him like an old 1,000-layer cake, he couldn't help but start calling the system. "System, come out." Qin Buyi said loudly, "Here you are, host, glad to serve you." The system said with a slightly flattering tone. Hearing the system's words, Qin Buyi was furious and said with a little dissatisfaction, "Shouldn't you give me an explanation, host? What explanation do you want?" The system asked doubtfully. Seeing the system pretending to be confused, Qin Buyi pointed it out without any courtesy. "It's worth 170 attribute points. If you exchange it for spiritual stones, it would be 700 low-grade spiritual stones. Is this the effect of suppressing your murderous intention, host? You have to know that suppressing murderous intent is a very energy-consuming thing. This price is already very reasonable. If you think it's cheap, can I give you more?" The system had a shameless attitude and even had some threats in its words. Qin Buyi was very sure that if he held on to it any longer, the system would definitely raise the price. If that happened, the gains would outweigh the losses. After greeting the system fiercely in his heart, Qin Buyi decisively chose to shut up and stop talking to the system. Seeing Qin Buyi's silence, the system comforted him. "Host, since you're doing well this time, I will answer a question for you for free." Qin Buyi was full of questions. When he heard this, he immediately asked, "Is Haotian still alive after the last battle in heaven?" That this is also the answer that Qin Buyi wants to know most at the moment. If Haotian is still alive and holding his weapons, he will be found sooner or later. Who knows what Haotian's temper is like? It would be unjust if he killed himself if he was in a bad mood. The host does not have enough authority to inform. The system replied. "Didn't you say you would answer a question for free? Why can't you tell me?" Qin Buyi said speechlessly, "Free questions are like free lunches. Which of the free lunches in the world is the best? You change the question." The system said confidently. Qin Buyi silently praised the system's shameless appearance and continued to ask, "What happened in ancient times? The host authority is seriously insufficient and cannot be informed." "Host, don't ask, I'll give you a random answer." Qin Buyi stood there blankly for a long time before saying, "Can it still be like this? I won't even let you ask questions. The key is that of the two questions you asked, one answer lies within you, and the other one you know now will only speed up your death." Starting with random answers, let me explain to you the role of luck in attributes. As the name suggests, luck makes you luckier and has a greater chance of getting treasures and opportunities. In the later stage, it may even be possible that a random stone picked up on the ground will be the most precious treasure in the world. Now that the answer is complete, don't call me if you have nothing to do. The system quickly fell silent after explaining. At this moment, Qin Buyi couldn't help but complain. "That makes sense. Just listen to what you say, and 10 years of studying will be in vain. If I can't pick up the treasure when I become stronger, you'll have to pay me one." After all, Qin Buyi really has to thank luck for surviving this time. If an ordinary person dares to do what Qin Buyi does, splitting half of his spiritual thoughts and then smashing them into pieces, he will definitely die. Qin Buyi's ability to survive was partly due to luck, but also due to his abnormal attributes, each of which was at its current peak without any shortcomings. Qin Buyi didn't think about the system's perfunctory and unhelpful explanation. Instead, he thought about the information that the system might have revealed intentionally or unintentionally. One of the two questions I asked just now is about myself. What does this mean? Qin Buyi thought in his heart. After thinking about it for a long time, I couldn't think of anything, so I had to keep it in mind for the time being. This awakening mission rewards a total of 10 attribute points and a broken blade. Qin Buyi took out the broken blade from the storage space. at the end of the remaining scene on the ladder to heaven, Qin Buyi saw the killing blade broken into several pieces from the tip to the handle. The piece in front of me, judging from the style, is exactly the tip of the killing blade. Qin Buyi looked at the complete killing blade and the extra tip in his hand with some confusion, and couldn't figure out what was going on for a long time. System, please come out and explain what is going on. Qin Buyi called in his heart. Well, it's very simple, but the host has to pay to answer this question, which only requires 10 attribute points. The system said humbly. You have the nerve to ask for money? Didn't you just say you would answer my question for free? Qin Buyi said while restraining his restless heart, isn't that the answer is complete? The system took a matter-of-fact tone. Damn! That's called an answer, are you embarrassed? Qin Buyi said angrily. Ahem host, don't be impatient, what you said is not unreasonable, so this question is free for you. The system saw the situation and patiently answered the question. The killing blade you are holding in your hand now, although I spent a lot of effort to gather it together, is only superficial and does not have the power of its true peak. Just put the fragments in your hands into the corresponding positions, and leave the rest of the fusion to me, free of charge. The system specifically emphasizes free at the end. Obviously it may also feel that it is a bit cheated and wants to make Qin Buyi feel better in this way. After hearing the system's understatement, Qin Buyi was a little shocked. It was not that he was shocked by the system's ability. Qin Buyi had never doubted the system's ability. What shocked him was that the killing blade, which was already at the top level of its class, was not in its complete form. With a little longing in his heart, he placed the broken tip of the knife at the tip of the killing blade. The two come into contact without any obstruction, and overlap like water and milk. After the tip of the knife was completely integrated into the killing blade, the whole body of the killing blade shook and let out a sword cry. Zhang! Qin Buyi felt the killing blade in his hand. It was slightly different from before. The murderous intent coming from the killing blade was stronger. Opening the information panel of the killing blade, the difference from before is that the killing blade has an additional % attack increase. A fragment can increase the attack by %, which is very terrifying. The higher the cultivation level, the more terrifying this increase is. At this time, Qin Buyi was looking forward to the amplification effect that could be achieved by gathering all the fragments of the killing blade together. Next, Qin Buyi broke through the killing sword technique to the 4th level, then added 10 attributes to himself, and opened the personal information panel. Name, Qin Buyi, Tianhuangti, Elementary, all attributes increased by 5.00%, cultivation level, 4th level, middle stage of divine transformation, 164/200, power, 164. Speed, 164. Stamina, 164. Attack, 164. Defense, 164. Luck, 164. Killing blade level 164, 200/, broken blade, 1/9, attack increase, % attack, 164. Killing sword technique level 164, 200/, attack, 164. Qinglong level 164, 200/. Chapter 36 Kunlun Secret Technique, the Immortal Killing Sword Formation. You are listening at Mtlnovel Aud. Return. After digesting all the things he gained from this awakening of the secret realm, Qin Buyi did not stay in the heaven surrounded by ruins, but chose to return. A strong feeling of weightlessness came again, and after a quarter of an hour, the vision returned. The place where Qin Buyi returned was exactly where he left before. Looking at the war missions and epic missions in the mission list, there are only nearly 5 months left to complete. It took more than 7 months to awaken the secret realm this time. Looking at the deadline of the task, Qin Buyi couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Fortunately, this awakening mission is to be started within 1 month, not completed within 1 month. If a completion deadline is set, the danger level will probably double. At the same time, Qin Buyi's breath appeared again on Blue Star, Kyoto, headquarters of the Cultivators Association. Wu Ho frowned and suddenly looked in the direction of Qin Buyi as if through the barrier of time and space. The frowning brows suddenly opened, and his face showed joy. Qin Buyi escaped from his hands 7 months ago. which made him feel like he encountered Baoshan but returned empty-handed. After Qin Buyi escaped, his aura disappeared in Blue Star, and Wu Hou mobilized all his strength to find him, but 7 months later, Qin Buyi seemed to have disappeared from the world. Not only did the searching team fail to find any clues, but Wu Hou himself often went out to investigate Qin Buyi's whereabouts, but no matter how he looked for it, there was no trace. Just when Wu Hou was about to give up, Qin Buyi's aura appeared again. How could he not be overjoyed? Wu Hou hurriedly left the headquarters of the Cultivators Association and flew at full speed towards the direction of Qin Buyi. Wu Kuei came to Wu Hou's office as usual, preparing to report on the Kunlun sect's resources in the past 7 months, since the Kunlun sect was robbed by Qin Buyi last time, although its foundation has not been damaged, but after the spiritual stones and weapons that seemingly maintained the daily operations of the sect were taken away by Qin Buyi, the sect could not continue to operate, so it had no choice but to ask Wu Hou for help. After all, the true heritage of the entire Kunlun sect was stored in Wu Hou. Wu Kuei saw that the door of the office was open, but Wu Hou was not seen inside, and he didn't take it seriously at all. He just thought that Wu Hou was simply going out. Qin Buyi flew along the sea at full speed. Time was very tight. With his current strength, anyone who came out of the Kunlun secret realm and perfected the void refining could easily kill him. Come to think of it, after these 7 months, the Kunlun sect can raid again. Qin Buyi thought. Just when Qin Buyi was thinking about it, Wu Hou appeared in Qin Buyi's field of vision. As soon as he saw Qin Buyi, Marquis Wu took the lead in launching an offensive without saying a word. Kunlun Great Captor, that a big hand grabbed Qin Buyi in midair. This move again. Qin Buyi said in his heart. Looking up, he saw a big hand falling quickly towards him. Chong, pulling out the killing blade, Qin Buyi held the knife and faced the big hand in the air. Killing and slaughtering, the killing blade vibrated tens of thousands of times per second and struck hard at the big hand. Laugh, the big grappling hand that Qin Buyi had caught before he had time to react was now like a rag, being chopped into pieces by the killing blade. How is this possible? Wu Hou looked at Qin Buyi in disbelief. 7 months ago, he had no power to resist, now he can break his own attack so easily. Thinking of this, Wu Hou became more and more eager to have the adventure of Qin Buyi. What kind of shocking adventure can enable a cultivator in the middle stage of spiritual transformation to withstand an attack from his early stage in the virtual refining stage? Qin Buyi shouted with strong murderous intent. Kill, annihilate. Before Wu Hou could launch another offensive, Qin Buyi decided to strike first. A full moon with a diameter of several thousand meters rose on the sea, and the full moon enveloped Wu Hou. The shadows of tens of thousands of killing blades appeared in the full moon, and the tips of the swords were all pointed at Wu Hou. Kill! Qin Buyi shouted. The phantoms of tens of thousands of killing blades slashed towards Wu Hou. This attack in the middle stage of divine transformation actually makes me feel threatened. What kind of adventure is this? Wu Hou's heart became even hotter, and his eyes looked at Qin Buyi as if he were looking at a moving human treasure. Kunlun Fire Palm. Wu Hou, who was inside the full moon, had his palms red as fire. He struck out with one palm, and the sky was soon filled with palm shadows. The flaming palm shadow struck at the phantom of the killing blade falling in the sky. Boom! 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 Loud noises came from the air. The shadow of the killing blade and the shadow of the blazing palm collided in the air, sparking countless sparks. The full moon dispersed, and Marquis Wu was unscathed. His eyes were full of greed and desire, and he looked at Qin Buyi. Killing life and death realm. The dim light condensed at the tip of the killing blade, compressing it from the size of a finger to the thickness of a hair. Cut. As Qin Buyi stopped shouting, the dim light flew towards Wu Hou at great speed. Whoosh! Chong! Wu Hou stretched out his hand and grabbed the hair-thick Yoguang, rubbing it with his index finger and thumb. The dim light was like a small spark in Wu Hou's hands, quickly extinguished. Do you have any other means? If this is the only means you can use, don't use it to embarrass yourself. Wu Hou looked like he had the overall situation in hand and spoke to Qin Buyi confidently. Qin Buyi's pupils shrank as he watched the dim light condensed by the dead domain sword skills being easily shattered. before the massacre and execution were improved, the dead domain was definitely the most powerful offensive method in Qin Buyi's hands, but after the improvement of slaughter and execution, the strength of the dead zone is obviously somewhat unsatisfactory. It seems that I have to find time to figure out how to increase the strength of the dead zone. Qin Buyi thought to himself. The battle between Qin Buyi and Wu Hou was very loud and spread far and wide. At this time, in Wu Hou's mind, there are already other people in the void refining realm rushing towards this place. I've had enough fun. If you don't hold back and capture me, don't blame me for missing arms and legs. Marquis Wu said in a threatening tone that the battle must be fought quickly. If other people in the void refining realm see Qin Buyi's combat prowess, even a fool will know that Qin Buyi has an unexpected adventure. When the time comes, all the adventures will be trivial, and the cooked duck may be snatched away as soon as it reaches your mouth. Taking the Kunlun secret realm as an example, there are 3 Lianshu perfection who are more powerful than Wu Hou. How could I, who was in the early stage of Lianshu, compete successfully with those 3 Lianshu, let alone the fire cloud secret realm and the water moon secret realm? Kunlun secret technique, immortal killing sword. Kunlun secret technique, immortal killing sword. Kunlun secret technique, immortal sword. Kunlun secret technique, immortal trapping sword. 4 small swords came out of Marquis Wu's mouth. They were able to catch the wind and quickly turned into flying swords about 1 foot in size. The void refining realm and divine mind was getting closer and closer to this place. Wu Hou looked a little anxious and shouted. Kunlun secret technique, Zhuxian sword formation. Following Wu Hou's loud shout, the 4 flying swords were fixed in 4 directions on Qin Buyi's body. Go here. Wu Hou pointed at Qin Buyi. Whizzing. Whizzing, point 4 flying swords struck Qin Buyi with the sound of piercing the air. Chapter 37 Seriously Injured and Refining the Void. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Well done. Qin Buyi shouted. Killing and slaughtering. The killing blade vibrated tens of thousands of times a second and attacked the immortal killing sword closest to him. Chong. Chong. The killing blade and the immortal killing sword collided together, causing sparks to fly. Open it for me. Qin Buyi shouted as all his strength was concentrated on the killing blade. Boom. The Zhuxian sword trembled and passed by Qin Buyi's ear. Kill, annihilate. The full moon with a diameter of several thousand meters appeared again, including the remaining immortal trapping sword, absolute immortal sword, and immortal killing sword. Within the full moon, tens of thousands of shadows of killing blades appeared out of thin air, and the tips of all the shadows pointed directly at the 3 flying swords. Behead. Qin Buyi shouted. Whizzing. Whoosh. The phantoms of tens of thousands of killing blades brought up a gust of wind as they flew, attacking towards the 3 flying swords. Humph. How dare you show off your trivial skills? Wu Hou said with disdain. The divine mind controlled the Zhuxian sword, which was caused to veer off course by Qin Buyi's attack. Today I will let you see the real Zhuxian sword formation. Wu Hou said with a somewhat impatient expression. In his spiritual mind, the other realms of refining the void are already close to him, and if he delays any longer, he will inevitably be discovered. Wu Hou decided to go all out with this attack and must capture Qin Buyi, control the immortal killing sword to quickly merge with the immortal trapping sword, immortal absolute sword, and immortal killing sword. Zhuxian sword formation, kill. The 4 flying swords quickly merged together and turned into 1 flying sword. Behead. Wu Hou pointed at Qin Buyi and said. Whoosh. After turning into a flying sword, the power of the Zhuxian sword formation greatly increased, and a sense of crisis came from the flying sword. Invincible. Qin Buyi shrank his eyes and thought to himself. Holding the killing blade in his hand, Qin Buyi flew towards the distance at high speed. Humph. I want to run away. How is it possible? Wu Hou was very confident in the immortal killing sword formation he used and shouted. Zhuxian sword formation, G. The Zhuxian sword formation, which had been chasing Qin Buyi behind him, suddenly sped up, several times faster than before. Seeing that he was locked by the Zhuxian sword formation, Qin Buyi stopped flying at full speed. Marquis Wu, you asked for this. Qin Buyi said in a cold tone. A mere middle-stage god transformation man actually dares to speak so wildly. He really doesn't know how to live or die. Wu Ho said sarcastically. Zhuxian sword formation Zhuxian. As Wu Ho shouted loudly, Qin Buyi's eyes merged into the Zhuxian sword formation into a flying sword, and streaks of blood were released from the sword. Whoosh! The Zhuxian sword formation attacked Qin Buyi very quickly. Killing creatures and scattering souls, the killing blade in Qin Buyi's hand quickly faded and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The disappearing killing blade gradually appeared in Qin Buyi's mind. After the killing blade emerged, the spiritual thoughts in Qin Buyi's mind in the early stages of the void refining realm were like finding a soldier and a commander. All of them rushed towards the body of the killing blade, slowly instilling spiritual thoughts into the killing blade. The appearance of the killing blade changed greatly, and a pure and domineering killing intent surged from the inside of the killing blade. The entire blade turned golden. Behead! Qin Buyi shouted. The killing blade, which had shrunk to the size of a palm, instantly appeared in front of Qin Buyi. Suddenly, the killing blade disappeared again in front of him, and appeared in front of Wu Ho the next second, attacking with his spiritual thoughts in Wu Ho's brain. How is it possible? It's actually a spiritual attack. A spiritual attack that even my Wu family doesn't have. How can he have the strength of spiritual thoughts in the void refining realm? This. Marquis Wu said in disbelief when he saw the soul-removing sword technique. Qin Buyi's attack was unavoidable. Wu Ho gritted his teeth and controlled the Zhuxian sword formation with all his strength to kill Qin Buyi. The blood-red immortal killing sword formation and the golden killing blade attacked each other almost at the same time. With the killing blade out of his hand, Qin Buyi retreated violently as he looked at the incoming Zhuxian sword formation. The bloody flying sword formed by the Zhuxian sword formation pierced Qin Buyi's body about 1 centimeter away from his heart and flew past. Puff! Qin Buyi spat out a large mouthful of blood, which was vaguely mixed with fragments of internal organs. Seriously injured, Qin Buyi simply stopped the blood flowing from the hole in his chest, and then looked at Wu Ho with all his attention. Whoosh! The palm-sized killing blade in front of Wu Ho once again faded and disappeared. The next moment appeared in Wu Ho's mind. The killing blade entered Wu Ho's brain and attacked Wu Ho's spiritual thoughts. Boom! There was a loud sound in Wu Ho's head. The killing blade struck Wu Ho's mind hard. Boom! 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 The killing blade wreaked havoc in Wu Ho's mind. Crack! After cutting out an unknown number of knives, Marquis Wu's mind made a sound like a breaking egg shell. Crack! Crack! The sound of egg shells breaking continued to be heard in Wu Ho's mind. Boom! After enduring several attacks from the killing blade, Wu Ho's spiritual thoughts were overwhelmed. There were explosions in the brain. What? His spiritual sense was severely damaged, and Marquis Wu's screams could be heard hundreds of miles away. The 3 masters of the void refining realm who were flying towards Wu Ho heard the sound and their flying speed increased sharply, flying towards Qin Buyi and Wu Ho. Listening to the screams, it should be Marquis Wu from the Kunlun secret realm. A beautiful woman with a slight alienation in her expression said. Inoue, this guy Wu Ho has become more and more arrogant in recent years. He has offended you before. It would be best if he died. A young man said to the distant woman with a flattering look. Before Inoue could answer, a cold snort came from the young man's side. Humph. Lan Wenhao, don't gloat too obviously. Lan Wenhao turned to look at the man who just spoke, and said in a bad tone. Zhang Yuan, I'm talking to fellow Taoist Shueyue's secret realm. When will it be your turn to interrupt? Zhang Yuan pointed out, I think what you said is false, and the toad wants to eat the swan meat is true. I don't think you have any virtue. Even if I am a toad who wants to eat swan meat, I am better than a hypocrite like you. Who in the world doesn't know that all the people in the Kunlun secret realm are sanctimonious, which is really disgusting. Lan Wenhao sneered. You. Zhang Yuan looked at Lan Wenhao with murderous intent in his eyes. What? Are you not convinced? Or just do it here. If you die accidentally, don't blame me. Lan Wenhao said sarcastically. Stop arguing. It's definitely not a good person who can seriously injure Marquis Wu. If you have time to argue, it's better to think about who the other party is. Inoue said to the two of them with a somewhat cold tone. She had just come out of Shueyue's secret realm this time, and unexpectedly she met Lan Wenhao and Zhang Yuan. The two of them saw that they were sticking up like dogskin plaster, and they couldn't drive them away. Humph. Humph. Lan Wenhao and Zhang Yuan looked at each other and each let out a cold snort. Lan Wenhao said, "This breath is very strange, as if it came out of thin air." Zhang Yuan said calmly, "You can tell from the aura that the other party's cultivation level is in the realm of transformation into gods, but the strength of his divine thoughts is in the realm of refining the void. Is it someone who has perfected the practice of refining the void?" Inoue said in an uncertain tone. "You'll know when you see it later." Lan Wenhao said. The three of them flew all the way and soon arrived at the station where Qin Buyi and Wu Ho were, but what was a little strange was that Lan Wenhao and Inoue were in front, and Zhang Yuan slowly followed them as if they were out for a walk. You, just tell me, the people in the Kunlun secret realm are all hypocrites, and they don't worry when they see one of their own injured. Lan Wenhao looked at Zhang Yuan with contempt and said to Inoue. You. Lan Wenhao, just wait, I will tear your mouth apart when I get the chance. Zhang Yuan said with a little anger in his tone. The three major refining realms of Kunlun secret realm represent the three major forces, and the Wu family has been very popular in recent years. If the Wu family could be weakened with the help of outsiders, Zhang Yuan would naturally want it. He wished that Wu Ho died, which would also be a big blow to the Wu family. Listening to Lan Wenhao calling herself Yu, Yin frowned slightly and said, "Fellow Taoist Lan, please be careful with your words." The three of them looked at the field. Wu Ho was hammering his head like crazy below. Qin Buyi withdrew his killing blade and looked at Wu Ho and the three of them with a murderous expression. My head hurts. No, don't come over, I don't want it. I am the strongest person in the Kunlun secret realm, and everything belongs to me. The three of them looked at Wu Ho who was in the void refining realm talking crazy words, and for a moment they couldn't help but feel a layer of cold sweat rising on their backs. Qin Buyi looked at the three people who appeared with vigilance. At this time, he was seriously injured and it would be dangerous if the three people opposite him had evil intentions. After Lan Wenhao looked at Qin Buyi's appearance, a hint of shock appeared in his eyes. He remembered the information that Lan Tianhe had passed on to the family some time ago. Lan Wenhao couldn't help but feel a headache when he thought of the recent major event in the Lan family. The Lan family now needs a strong foreign aid. I didn't expect that in such a short period of time, he could be seriously injured and refining the void. It's really scary. But this is good, because it shows that he has the qualifications to invest in my Lan family. Lan Wenhao said in his heart. Zhang Yuan looked at the hammer-headed Wu Ho below and judged that the opponent had suffered extremely serious spiritual injuries. Looking at Qin Buyi again, many things in his mind were answered instantly. The spies arranged by the Zhang family around Wu Ho sent back information that Wu Ho had been looking for something these days, and it must be the cultivator in the middle stage of divine transformation in front of him. In the middle stage of becoming a god, you can actually hurt Marquis Wu to such an extent. It seems to be a rare spiritual attack. I must get it. Zhang Yuan looked at Qin Buyi with a trace of greed in his eyes. Thinking of this, Zhang Yuan, who was originally at the back of the three-man team, instantly came to the front and flew towards Qin Buyi. Chong. During the flight, Zhang Yuan looked at the flying sword passing by his eyes, looked at Lan Wenhao with an angry face, and said. What do you mean? Lan Wenhao scratched his head and said apologetically, sorry, mistake. Humph. Zhang Yuan snorted coldly and continued to walk towards Qin Buyi. Boom. Lan Wenhao suddenly accelerated behind him and bumped into Zhang Yuan, knocking Zhang Yuan staggering in mid-air. Before Zhang Yuan could speak, Lan Wenhao said in a joking tone, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened today. I can't control the spiritual energy in my body. Don't blame me. Zhang Yuan squinted his eyes, looked at Lan Wenhao who was blocking him, and said angrily. Do you think I believe it? If you are in the early stage of cultivating the void and can't control the spiritual energy in your body, do you think I'm a fool? Lan Wenhao changed his apologetic expression and said in surprise, "Hey, you saw it, you don't look stupid. You are looking for death." Zhang Yuan used his flying sword and attacked Lan Wenhao. Yingyue looked at the two people fighting with curiosity. She didn't understand why Lan Wenhao wanted to stop Zhang Yuan. Qin Buyi saw the two of them fighting, and the other one was watching the excitement, raised his killing blade, and slashed towards Wu Hou at high speed. Just when the killing blade was about to hit Wu Hou, who had been in a state of madness, suddenly had clear eyes, avoided Qin Buyi's attack, and fled towards the distance. Chapter 38 Visiting the Kunlun Sect again. You are listening at Mtlnovel Audio. Seeing Wu Hou fleeing, Qin Buyi quickly chased after him. Seeing this situation, Lan Wenhao and Zhang Yuan stopped. The three of them looked at each other and chased Wu Hou in the same direction. Killing and slaughtering. Qin Buyi held the killing blade in his hand and slashed towards Wu Hou in front. Chong. In a hurry, Wu Hou took out the immortal killing sword from his body and blocked it behind him. Seeing Qin Buyi getting closer and closer to him, a hint of heartache flashed in Wu Hou's eyes. He took out a red fruit from the space ring and swallowed it in one gulp. After the fruit entered his belly, the rich power of qi and blood filled Marquis Wu's body, and even the seriously injured spirit in his brain was relieved. Biting the tip of his tongue, Wu Hou spat out a mouthful of blood. And his flying speed suddenly began to increase dramatically. Lan Wenhao, who was in the distance, saw Wu Hou taking out the red fruit and swallowing it all, and said to Zhang Yuan in a sour tone, "You are still very wealthy in the Kunlun secret realm. This Kirin fruit, which only produces one in 1,000 years, even has one in the early stage of void refining." Zhang Yuan didn't look very good because of Lan Wenhao's previous stop. He replied gloomily, "The Wu family is the one with the most wealth. I don't have this thing." Qin Buyi watched Wu Hou, who was getting closer and closer, suddenly increase in speed, and soon only a small white dot remained, disappearing from his sight. After continuing to pursue Wu Hou in the direction where he disappeared for a while, he couldn't feel Wu Hou's aura at all. Qin Buyi stopped helplessly and turned to look at the three people who were also chasing after him with a cold expression. Yingyue and the others also stopped and looked at Qin Buyi. Zhang Yuan suddenly took a step forward and said, "Do you know the guilt of those who harmed my Kunlun secret realm?" After Zhang Yuan said this, he found that Qin Buyi looked at him as if he were a fool. Not only that, Lan Wenhao also had this meaning in his eyes. What he couldn't accept the most was that the goddess Yinyu in his heart seemed to have some emotions in her expression. Lan Wenhao scoffed in a low voice, "You seem to be a fool. You can make the Marquis Wu in the early stage of refining the void run away in embarrassment, sticking a green onion in a pig's nose, so what are you doing?" That with Zhang Yuan's cultivation level, he could clearly hear even the sound of a mosquito flapping its wings, not to mention Lan Wenhao's barely concealed ridicule. Although he was angry in his heart, he did not pay attention to Lan Wenhao. After the battle with Wu Hou, Qin Buyi, who was obviously seriously injured, was obviously more important. Qin Buyi watched Zhang Yuan slowly spit out two words, "Idiot." With the killing blade lying in front of him, Qin Buyi prepared for battle. "You are looking for death," Zhang Yuan said to Qin Buyi with a hint of anger, for small swords came out of his mouth. The small swords quickly became about 10 feet in size. Zhang Yuan shouted, "Kunlun secret technique, immortal killing sword. Kunlun secret technique, immortal killing sword. Kunlun secret technique, immortal sword. Kunlun secret technique, immortal trapping sword. Kunlun secret technique, Juxian sword formation." Point 4 flying swords quickly attacked Qin Buyi. Chong! 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 That when Feijian was still halfway away from Qin Buyi, a folding fan flashed from one side. The folding fan quickly hit the 4 flying swords, forcing the 4 flying swords back to Zhang Yuan. Lan Wenhao, you! Zhang Yuan looked at Lan Wenhao, who was holding a folding fan and looking like a gentle scum, and said angrily. Lan Wenhao said to Zhang Yuan with a smile on his face, "Don't be angry. Being angry will shorten your life. Just like that, he will die in an instant." Yinue looked at Zhang Yuan's expression like pig liver from the side, and silently complained in her heart, "Your words are beyond the comprehension of even a 6th grade elementary school student." Qin Buyi looked at the two people who were clashing again from a distance, and heard Lan Wenhao's voice. "I'll hold him back. Brother Qin, please leave first and find a place to recover from your injuries. Lan Tianhe is my 7th brother, and I am Lan Wenhao of the Lan family." "Are you from the Lan family?" Qin Buyi thought to himself. When he communicated with Lan Tianhe before, he didn't feel much about Lan Tianhe's statement that the Lan family would help him, except for the very detailed information that Lan Tianhe gave him, which was of some use. The rest, such as black cards and sound transmission jade talismans, were of little use. Lan Tianhe never contacted him afterwards, thinking that the matter would just go away. But today when he saw Lan Wenhao of the Lan family blocking the Kunlun secret realm for him, Qin Buyi realized that Lan Tianhe didn't just talk about it casually. In other words, Lan Wenhao could see the attitude of the Lan family towards him. Qin Buyi silently accepted this sentiment in his heart and sent a message to Lan Wenhao, "Thank you very much." Qin Buyi left quickly. Before finding a place to recuperate, he had one more thing to do. Seeing Qin Buyi leaving, Zhang Yuan became completely angry, pointed at Lan Wenhao and said, "Does your Lan family want to be hostile to my Kunlun secret realm?" Lan Wenhao replied calmly, "Don't always put high hats on others. My Lan family has no intention of being hostile to your Kunlun secret realm, and even if it is hostile, it is a matter between the Fire Cloud secret realm and the Kunlun secret realm." Night, after Qin Buyi left, he flew all the way and soon arrived at Kunlun Mountain. Relying on his memory in the Kunlun Mountains, Qin Buyi quickly found the Kunlun Sect. Arriving above the Kunlun Sect, Qin Buyi's eyes revealed a murderous intent. The grudge between Wu Hou and himself is irresolvable, and there is bound to be a fierce battle between himself and the Kunlun secret realm. The mission issued by the system was to destroy the Kunlun secret realm within 1 year, but it failed and was wiped out. It has been more than 7 months now. There is less than half the time left. During this period, if the overall strength of Kunlun secret realm is reduced by 1 point, the pressure will be much less. Qin Buyi fell down and found a disciple who seemed to have a certain status in Kunlun sect. He grabbed the disciple and put the sharp blade of the killing blade on the disciple's neck. Qin Buyi said, "Tell me, who is in charge of the Kunlun sect now?" That the disciple swallowed his foam, and when he saw Qin Buyi's face clearly, he felt as if he had seen a ghost. He had seen this face before, just over 7 months ago, when this man caught him and asked him to take him to the treasure pavilion. After taking him to the treasure pavilion, he knocked himself out instantly. When he woke up again, the entire Kunlun sect had been looted. Even the deputy sect leader is dead. In the past 7 months, everyone in the Kunlun sect has tightened their belts and lived a tight life. As a true disciple who was bribed with spiritual stones, he was almost dismissed. If he hadn't spent a lot of spiritual stones at the critical moment, 9 out of 10 true disciples would have been lost. Just when the supplies recently distributed to the Kunlun sect arrived and life was about to get better, why did this evil god come again? When he thought that the deputy sect leader had died at the hands of this man, his true disciple Lang Yi was very rational and kept talking to Qin Buyi about the current situation of the Kunlun sect. Boom! Qin Buyi stretched out his hand and made a knife, knocking Lang Yi unconscious with 1 blow. Before Lang Yi felt dizzy, his last thought was, "Here comes this again. I hope I wake up and the Kunlun sect can still be the same as before." Qin Buyi learned from Lang Yi that the current head of the Kunlun sect was Wu Ping of the Wu family, who had just been transferred after Wu Ba's death and had perfected his cultivation to become a god. Secondly, there are 6 other senior members of the Kunlun sect, all of whom are direct descendants of the Wu family. Are there 7 people in total? Secretly calculating in his heart, Qin Buyi had no intention of letting these 7 people go. As for the other disciples of the Kunlun sect and other peripheral personnel, except for those who didn't open their eyes, Qin Buyi had his own plans in mind. The new deputy sect leader Wu Ping was currently in his residence, looking at the materials in the space ring with a smile on his face. The batch of supplies given by Marquis Wu was enough to keep the Kunlun sect running without worries for a year, but when Wu Ping was distributing supplies, he secretly intercepted the next third. As a result, although Kunlun sect can barely operate for a year now, it is still suffering from lack of food and clothing. Boom! The door of the residence was kicked open, and Qin Buyi walked in with a killing blade. Wu Ping narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at the person, and said in a gloomy tone, "Who are you?" "The one who killed you." As Qin Buyi spoke, he drew out his killing blade and slashed at Wu Ping. "How bold! A person in the middle stage of becoming a god is really desperate," Wu Ping said angrily. "Killing and slaughtering." Chong! Chong! Wu Ping launched his flying sword and struck towards the killing blade. Den, dang, dang. The swords collided, and a huge force came from the flying sword. Wu Ping took 3 steps back before he could barely remove the huge force from his body. Killing creatures and scattering souls, the killing blade in his hand quickly faded, and the blade disappeared in the blink of an eye. The killing blade appeared in Qin Buyi's mind, and his spiritual thoughts crazily poured into the body of the killing blade. After the spiritual thoughts were poured into it, the killing blade turned golden, exuding domineering and pure killing intent. The golden killing blade that transformed into a palm-sized body appeared in front of Qin Buyi again. "Behead!" Qin Buyi shouted. Whoosh! The killing blade instantly arrived in front of Wu Ping and pierced the sea of consciousness in Wu Ping's mind. The killing blade that entered Wu Ping's brain sea of consciousness kept slashing. Boom! 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 Every time the killing blade struck, there would be a loud sound in Wu Ping's brain. What? The sea of consciousness in the brain was destroyed, and severe pain was felt. A painful roar came from Wu Ping's mouth, and he knelt on the ground and repeatedly hit his head with his fists. Boom! Boom! When the killing blade struck for the 9th time, a cracking sound was heard from Wu Ping's sea of consciousness. Crack! As the first cracking sound came out, the second and third ones also followed. Crack! Crack! Boom! Wu Ping's overwhelmed consciousness exploded instantly. Boom! Wu Ping's eyes lost their light, and the breath of life in his body was slowly disappearing. Qin Buyi was not surprised at this result. The reason why Wu Ho was able to survive the soul-dispersing attack was that he did not die. The main reason is because he is in the void refining realm, but even if he is in the void refining realm, his sea of consciousness was shattered after being attacked by the soul-spreading soul, and he should be hiding in a corner to heal his injuries, but only Wu Ping, who had perfected his divine transformation, could not die when faced with such an intensity of spiritual attack. Qin Buyi stepped forward, took off the whooping space ring, and put the whooping flying sword into the system storage space. After leaving Whooping's residence, Qin Buyi headed to the next location. Laugh! On the mountain behind the Kunlun sect, an old man showed fear, looking at the young man holding a knife in front of him. His body slowly fell to the ground. Laugh! In the Kunlun sect treasure pavilion, the new elder was practicing with his eyes closed. He suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the sharp blade that passed through his heart. He tried his best to turn his head, wanting to know who the person who killed him was, but when his head was turned halfway, it became weak and drooped. Laugh! Kunlun sect's weapon refining hall. The master of the weapon refining hall has been guarding the weapon refining hall day and night since it was stolen last time. A cold light flashed in the dark night, and blood could not stop flowing from the throat of the master of the weapon refining hall. The master of the weapon refining hall desperately covered his throat with both hands, as if doing so would slow down the arrival of death. After a few seconds, the master of the weapon refining hall dropped his hands weakly, and his whole body completely lost the breath of life. Qin Buyi took off the space ring from the master of the weapon refining hall and turned around to leave. Chapter 39 Blood Bodhi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The same thing happened in other places of Kunlun sect. In less than half an hour, Qin Buyi killed all the senior officials of Kunlun sect. In the process of killing the top leaders of Kunlun sect, Qin Buyi also looted the entire Kunlun sect again. There are very few things available, and not much that is truly valuable. After opening the space rings of Wu Ping's 7 people, Qin Buyi understood everything instantly. Spiritual stones and treasures are all stored in the Wu Ping 7-person space ring. After killing people and seizing the treasure, Qin Buyi didn't stay too long. The Kunlun sect is located in Kunlun Mountain, which is the entrance to the Kunlun secret realm. He killed people and swindled goods twice in succession under the nose of Kunlun's secret realm. Once discovered, the risk is still too high for Qin Buyi now. After leaving Kunlun Sect, Qin Buyi flew all the way to Kyoto. The blood hole next to the heart that was pierced by Wu Ho with the Zhuxian sword formation had not been dealt with yet. He randomly found a 5-star hotel in Kyoto and Qin Buyi walked in without even trying to disguise his injuries. With Qin Buyi's current cultivation level, he really doesn't need to make any disguise. What ordinary people without cultivation here and see are all under the influence of Qin Buyi's powerful spiritual thoughts. When they came to the front desk, a girl with a very good figure said to Qin Buyi with a polite smile, "Hello, sir, what do you need?" Qin Buyi took out the black card given to him by Lan Tianhe from the system storage space, handed it to the receptionist and said, 1 month in the presidential suite. The presidential suite costs 10 yuan per night, which is 300 million yuan per month. Looking at the young man in ordinary clothes in front of him, the lady at the front desk showed excellent professionalism and did not raise any questions. He took the black card in Qin Buyi's hand with both hands and gently slid it over the computer. Various information about the black card quickly appeared on the interface. When the front desk lady looked up again, she looked at Qin Buyi with shock and disbelief in her eyes, and she stammered, "Dear sir, please wait a moment, wait a moment." After saying that, he trotted out. Qin Buyi found a place to sit aside, and soon a middle-aged man in his 40s with a stout figure ran over behind the front desk lady, sweating profusely. "Sir, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. I am the manager of this hotel. My surname is Wang, and my name is Wang Fugue." Wang Fugue said respectfully when he came to Qin Buyi. Qin Buyi nodded and said, "It's okay, can you take me to the presidential suite now?" "Of course can." After Wang Fugue finished speaking, he glared at the lady at the front desk next to him. The lady at the front desk immediately understood, ran to the front desk to complete the procedures quickly, and carefully returned the black card to Qin Buyi. Qin Buyi followed Wang Fugue to the presidential suite. Wang Fugue opened the door, bent 30 degrees, put one hand on his chest and the other behind his back, respectfully waiting for Qin Buyi to walk in. After Qin Buyi walked into the presidential suite, he looked at Wang Fugue who was still standing at the door and said, "There's nothing to do, just go and do your work. Okay, you can call me anytime if you need anything." Wang Fugue said in a flattering manner. Seeing Qin Buyi nodding, Wang Fugue gently closed the door, went to the front desk downstairs, and looked at the black card information saved on the computer. Name, unknown, top secret. Level, supreme. There are only 7 supreme level cards in the entire Blue Star. Every one of them is an earth-shattering big shot. I didn't expect that I would encounter it today. If I seize this opportunity and hug my thighs, I will definitely have a good time in the rest of my life. Get rain. Wang Fugue was thinking about it in his mind, and at the same time he told the lady at the front desk, "Let everyone be smart. If someone doesn't have the foresight to make that person unhappy, the King of Heaven will not be able to protect him." The lady at the front desk is not a fool. Of course she understands the meaning of the supreme black card. At this time, she is planning in her heart how to be favored by the adult just now. Even if he is just an ordinary bed partner, he will be able to live a comfortable life for the rest of his life. Qin Buyi withdrew his spiritual thoughts in the room. For his level of cultivation, the inner thoughts and thoughts of ordinary people could not be hidden from him at all, and he could know them clearly in an instant. I ignored Xiao Jiujiu in these people's hearts, and released his spiritual thoughts just to prevent someone from tipping off the Cultivators Association or the Kunlun secret realm. Now that I have come to Kyoto, I am right under the eyes of the Cultivators Association. So it is better to be cautious, however, based on my observations. During this period, it seems that the probability of ordinary people coming into contact with practitioners is very low. Thinking about it, he was a killer and has become the most dangerous killer in Southeast Asia. He still doesn't know the existence of cultivators. Since these people are not dangerous in any way, Qin Buyi naturally does not want to spend more energy paying attention to them. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, turn on the recycling function in the system store. All the things obtained from the Kunlun sect were thrown in and recycled. Drop. The system is calculating the value of the item. Drop. After calculation, the total value is 450 mol points. Qin Buyi lowered his head and looked at the blood hole on his chest. If he didn't use any medicine, it would take about a month to recover. In this situation, too many changes can happen within a month. The most important thing is that Wu Ho's consciousness is now broken, and he could kill him while he is sick. Qin Buyi understands this very well. Searching for medicines to treat injuries from the system mall, Qin Buyi soon found the target. Level, blood Bodhi is a holy product for healing. After taking it, no matter how serious the physical injury is, it will be restored to its original state within a quarter of an hour. Value, mall points. After reaching the 4th level of cultivation, the effects of drugs below the 4th level become very weak. In the 4th level, in addition to this blood Bodhi, Qin Buyi can quickly restore his combat effectiveness. Other drugs only shorten the recovery time. It can take anywhere from a few days to more than 10 days to truly recover. In exchange for the bleeding Bodhi, Qin Buyi looked at the red fruit in his hand and thought that what Wu Ho had eaten when he was escaping seemed to be this blood Bodhi. Opening your mouth and swallowing it in one gulp, you felt a refreshing sensation in your body. The granulations around the blood hole on your chest quickly wriggled and healed, and the scab soon fell off. A quarter of an hour later, Qin Buyi's injuries all over his body were healed, and his combat power returned to its peak state. I didn't expect blood Bodhi to have a certain therapeutic effect on the consciousness of the sea. It's just that the intensity of this treatment is too weak, but it's better than nothing. Qin Buyi said secretly. Just during the healing process, a very weak feeling of coolness spread to the sea of consciousness in the brain. After being absorbed by the sea of consciousness, there is no longer a sense of coolness. This also made Qin Buyi secretly breathe a sigh of relief. If blood Bodhi also had a powerful healing effect on the sea of consciousness, something would be wrong. Wu Ho's sea of consciousness is broken. Now he must be looking for ways to repair the broken sea of consciousness. The top priority now is to find the weak Wu Ho and kill him. Thinking of this, Qin Buyi's eyes showed murderous intent. There were 350 mall points left, and Qin Buyi converted them all into attribute points. The exchange ratio of 4th level cultivation attribute points and points is 1 to 10, that is, one attribute requires 10 points. After redeeming a total of 35 attribute points, Qin Buyi opened the personal information panel and added them all to himself. Name, Qin Buyi, Tianhuangti. Elementary, all attributes increased by 5.00%, cultivation level, 4th level, late stage of divine transformation, 199/200, power, 199. Speed, 199. Stamina, 199. Attack, 199. Defense, 199. Luck, 199. Killing blade level 199, 200/, broken blade, 1/9, attack increase, %, attack, 199. Killing sword technique, level 199, 200/, attack, 199. Qinlong, level 199, 200/. I almost became a god. After his breakthrough in cultivation, Qin Buyi's various attributes have now been increased by the Tianhuang body. His combat power has steadily entered the early stage of void refining, and his spiritual thoughts have reached the intensity of the middle stage of void refining. The elementary Tianhuang body is already so powerful, so what should the intermediate Tianhuang body be like? Qin Buyi thought with some longing in his heart. Take off your clothes and take out new clothes from the storage space to change into. Qin Buyi looked at the green dragon tattoo on his upper body, which was vividly moving around his body and snoring slightly. I almost forgot about you. Qin Buyi slapped his forehead and said, since the last time he was involved in a murderous confrontation with his subconscious in the awakening secret realm, the bored little Qinlong saw no one to play with him, so he began to fall asleep. When he was sleeping, it turned into a tattoo, and the whole dragon was attached to Qin Buyi's body. Without disturbing the sleeping little Qinlong, Qin Buyi changed his clothes and prepared to leave the hotel and go to the Cultivators Association. When passing the hotel front desk, Wang Fugue ran up and said, Sir, is there anything I can help you with? Qin Buyi waved his hand, and Wang Fugue took a step back knowingly. I wish you a pleasant outing. After leaving the hotel, Qin Buyi's spiritual thoughts in the middle stage of Lianqiu swept across Kyoto. Shuei's secret realm was in a hotel in Kyoto. Inue, who was sitting cross-legged, opened her eyes and said, middle stage of refining the void. Who is it? In a manner of the Lan family in Kyoto, Lan Wenhao was wearing a bandage on his right arm. He felt this powerful spiritual thought and asked doubtfully, Brother Qin, could you be the owner of this powerful spiritual thought? If you really want to, it's you. This cultivation breakthrough speed is too terrifying. At this time, a sudden pain came from his right arm. Lan Wenhao bared his teeth and cursed, Zhang Yuan, this little bastard, is really cruel. At the Kyoto Cultivators Association, Zhang Yuan sat in the office that originally belonged to Marquis Wu with a bruised nose and a swollen face. He felt the divine will and snorted coldly, I don't know whether to live or die, how dare I use my divine will so unscrupulously in Kyoto. After speaking, he touched his swollen face with his hand and said bitterly, Lan Wenhao, you villain, you actually used such despicable means. With Zhang Yuan's cultivation level, if it was a skin injury, it would definitely recover in less than half an hour. Lan Wenhao didn't know what method he used to keep his nose and face swollen for almost a day. What made him even more angry was that when he came to the headquarters of the Cultivators Association, the people from the Wu family not only showed no awe but even lacked respect for him. After he occupied Wu Ho's office, the current situation of the Wu family's relationship with him was basically that the Wu family treated him as nothing and did not touch his brow. But there was no shortage of ridicule towards him in private, and all of this was clearly detected by him with his spiritual mind. Zhang Yuan didn't bother to argue with this group of people. He was more concerned about two things now. The first thing on the list was where Qin Buyi had gone. To him, catching the seriously injured Qin Buyi was equivalent to picking up a shocking adventure out of thin air. One is where Wu Ho fled to. If Wu Ho dies, Zhang Yuan will naturally be happy, but Wu Ho is not dead yet. A big reason why Zhang Yuan came to the headquarters of the Cultivators Association is to get the whereabouts of Wu Ho as soon as possible. Then if this news is revealed, the guys in Fire Cloud's secret realm and Shueiyue's secret realm who have enmity with Wu Ho will not miss the opportunity to add insult to injury, killing people with borrowed knives to weaken the Wu family's influence in the Kunlun secret realm. In the Kunlun secret realm, internal competition is very fierce. Chapter 40 Fusion Realm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qin Buyi withdrew his spiritual thoughts, looked at the headquarters of the Cultivators Association, and thought to himself. Hasn't Marquis Wu come back? Although Wu Ho was not here, Qin Buyi saw in his mind that the Cultivators Association still had an early stage of cultivation. It was the person who was about to attack him but was stopped by Lan Wenhao. It doesn't matter. Since Wu Ho hasn't come back, I'll let you have an operation. Just when Qin Buyi was about to fly to the headquarters of the Cultivators Association, a stream of light flew from the distance, the light dispersed, and an old man wearing a Taoist robe with an air of immortality stood in front of Qin Buyi. The old man looked at Qin Buyi with a serious expression, and asked with a hint of sternness in his gentle tone. Which family are you a disciple of? With such a level of cultivation, don't you know that Kyoto stipulates that all cultivators are not allowed to release their spiritual thoughts in Kyoto? Qin Buyi was stunned for a moment. He really didn't know this rule. Looking at the old man through the probing eyes, the old man's cultivation level is unknown in the probing eyes. Qin Buyi was shocked and thought to himself, could it be the fusion realm, that the combined realm is the name of the next realm of Lianqiu, recalling that Lan Tianhe had told himself that all the controllers of the three holy places for cultivators in Blue Star had perfected the void realm, and he had never heard of the existence of the fusion realm. Just when Qin Buyi was confused, the old man seemed to see Qin Buyi's doubts and held his long beard and said, I am the Chinese Dragon Guard, which is different from the three places of Kunlun's secret realm, Fire Cloud's secret realm, and Shueiyue's secret realm. If we, the Chinese Dragon Guard, could not firmly suppress one of these three secret realms, how could they be so peaceful and secure? Hearing what the old man said, Qin Buyi's doubts were instantly cleared. He was still thinking before why the three secret realms were willing to live alone instead of occupying Kyoto with their strong cultivation. The reason is that there are practitioners in the fusion realm in Kyoto. Unless their brains are broken, the gap in combat power will become larger as they reach the later stages of the Great Realm. Take the Kunlun secret realm as an example. It is estimated that even one piece of the three major refining perfections in the Kunlun secret realm would not be enough for the old man in front of me. Old sir, I really didn't know there was such a rule in Kyoto, I'm sorry. Qin Buyi said in a sincere tone. Seeing Qin Buyi's sincere attitude, the old man's expression relaxed a lot. He looked at Qin Buyi curiously and said, "The attitude is not bad, but in my memory, no one in the younger generation can achieve your level of cultivation. Where did you come from, little friend?" "Old sir." Before Qin Buyi finished speaking, he was interrupted by the old man in front of him. The old man said, "Call the old man more points. My name is Qi Yun. Just call me Qi Lao. Mr. Qi, I have just returned from overseas cultivation. It is normal that you have no impression." Qin Buyi explained. While speaking, Qin Buyi was mentally prepared to retreat at any time. Qin Buyi has never been in the habit of placing his hopes on other people's character. If the old man in front of him makes any dangerous moves, what Qin Buyi has to do is to react immediately. Mr. Qi looked at Qin Buyi up and down and said meaningfully, "Young man, you are lying to me." When Qin Buyi heard this, the hairs on his body almost stood up, and he looked at Mr. Qi with a wary look. Unexpectedly, Qi Lao laughed and waved his hand. "Don't be nervous. Everyone has their own adventures. The fact that you can achieve such a level of cultivation at such a young age only shows that this is your destiny. Although cultivators have to contend with and fight against heaven, if they lose themselves in the process and are occupied by greed, it will be difficult to advance further. I have told this to many people, but they don't believe it. The most typical example is that the current controllers of the three secret realms are all filled with greed. As a result, their cultivation has been stuck in the void refining realm for many years and cannot break through." Qin Buyi asked, "It seems that we can't blame them. Blue Star's spiritual energy is exhausted and cultivation resources are very limited. If there is a shocking opportunity in front of you, wouldn't you be tempted?" Mr. Qi thought seriously for a long time, looked at Qin Buyi with clear eyes and said, "As cultivators, we should move forward step by step. If opportunities come to me, I will take them. If there is no chance, it will not have any impact. Little friend, what is your name?" Judging from Mr. Qi's performance, Qin Buyi did not detect any pretentiousness. Instead, he showed freedom and ease in everything, and replied, "Qin Buyi. Little friend Qin, I'll see you again in the future. Remember, don't let your spiritual thoughts wander around." After speaking, Mr. Qi turned around and disappeared from Qin Buyi's eyes. Qin Buyi stood there thinking about what Mr. Qi said, and after a while, he flew to the headquarters of the Cultivators Association. What he asked Mr. Qi was something he still had no answer for. "The system fell from the sky and changed my life drastically in less than a year." Sometimes Qin Buyi would feel that this kind of shocking adventure was unreal, as if he was living in a dream. Even in his heart, he was afraid that Meng would quietly wake up one day, the system would leave him, and he would turn back into the ordinary person he was before without any cultivation. But after hearing what Mr. Qi said today, Qin Buyi gradually became brighter. "Even if the system leaves me one day, even if I become an ordinary person again, I will go on step by step and regain my cultivation." Ding. Detect the improvement of the host's state of mind and reward the awakening secret realm for a limited time purchase. Ding. The purchase of the awakening secret realm is limited to 3 days. The countdown starts now. Please go to the system mall to check. Qin Buyi let out a long sigh of relief. He opened the system mall and saw the countdown to the awakening secret realm and its price. Awakening secret realm, price, 1,000 system mall points. After Qin Buyi saw the price, he wiped his eyes in disbelief and continued to look. 1,000 points is 1,000 million low-grade spiritual stones. Where can I get so many spiritual stones in 3 days? Qin Buyi suddenly felt a little embarrassed. Although the last awakening of the secret realm was dangerous, it had many benefits, and it significantly improved his own combat power. This time the secret realm of awakening appears, Qin Buyi will not give up no matter what. Thinking of this, the flight to the headquarters of the Cultivators Association became faster. Arriving at the headquarters of the Cultivators Association, Qin Buyi kicked open the door and walked in. "Who? Stop!" One after another, strong men dressed in black appeared in front of Qin Buyi and shouted at Qin Buyi. Bang! Bang! Boom! Qin Buyi did not kill these ordinary people who had no cultivation. the powerful spiritual thoughts in the middle stage of refining the void were slightly mobilized, and these ordinary people fell to the ground and fainted one by one. Walking from the first floor to the top floor, Qin Buyi saw the direct members of the Wu family and the person who wanted to attack him on the top floor. Without saying another word, Qin Buyi drew out his killing blade and shouted, "Kill, annihilate!" A full moon appeared on the top floor, enveloping everyone. Within the full moon, the shadows of tens of thousands of killing blades appeared, with their tips pointed straight down. Cut! Qin Buyi swung his sword downward. Tens of thousands of phantoms of killing blades instantly attacked the people below. Hey! Hey! Laugh! The full moon dispersed, and all direct descendants of the Wu family were killed. The only living person still standing in the scene was Zhang Yuan. When Zhang Yuan was resisting the Zhu Ju sword technique, he was struck by the phantom of the killing blade. At this time, his whole body was covered in blood, and his face was filled with disbelief as he said, "Why did your injuries recover so quickly? Why did your cultivation level suddenly increase so much? The intensity of this attack has reached the early stage of void refining. This is not true. It's not true." Qin Buyi looked at Zhang Yuan with a cold expression, and said in a cold tone, "If you have any questions, go to hell and ask the King of Hell, and the King of Hell will tell you." Killing creatures and scattering souls.